Mr. Al, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? A 1. A 2. A 3.
Hey Ryan,
Yes.
did you know that a slice of onion has more sugar in it than a slice of orange?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Anyway, welcome to the third ever Expedition Surburbia podcast. My name is Nick, and I'm joined by my great friend
Ryan Mises.
Ryan Mises, and today we're going to be talking about something that is extremely near and dear to our hearts. Today we're going to be talking about
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
That's right. Scary stories to tell in the dark
Is a bone-chilling illustration in the original Scary Stories books in 1981 brought another terrifying dimension to the stories.
Anyway, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a 1981 children's book written by Alvin Schwartz and illustrated by Stephen Gammell. Both fairly fucked up people in their own respects, due to the fact that a lot of the stuff that they made was just absolutely insanely crazy and just chilling. Now, in the modern day of 2019, director Andre Overdahl, who's known for such works as Troll Hunter and The Autopsy of Jane Doe, is going to be making a film about it, and that's why we decided to do this podcast today, because we're coming from different perspectives when it comes to the Scary Stories books.
See, I'm a novice because I remember as a child seeing a lot of kids in elementary school getting the books, but I never really wanted to read them because I always thought they were scary. But then I think there was a trailer or something, or like a screenshot saying they're making the movies. They're making a movie for Scary Stories. And I kind of thought to myself, I've never really read those books. So I thought I would go on Amazon one night and order them off of Amazon. I got like 3 of them for $15 with the original drawings, mind you, because in 2010 they re-released them, quote unquote, and they like changed the drawings, and a lot of people were outraged by it.
Yeah, in 2010 they re-released the drawings of these books, the Stephen Gammell drawings, which we may or may not put up there. And if you Google any of these Stephen Gammell drawings, or if you've read the stories in the past, they are absolutely terrifying. Speaking of which, we can talk about some of our favorites that we have right here.
Oh, yes.
Now, I'll start off. My personal favorite is the one Meet Tai Dodie Walker, which is a story about a kid who's overnight. And I remember vividly the story's not being nearly as terrifying as the drawings, as in the stories were just retellings of folklore, changed up a little bit to, suit American audiences and made for children. But the scariest one, in my personal opinion, was the Meet Tai Dodie Walker drawing. This one is just in the back of my mind. The story's about a kid who goes and is given $100, $500 or something to stay in a haunted house overnight, which, again, for the time is like a lot of money. Obviously, it's a lot of money today. And he's over with his dog when he starts hearing some singing. Long story short, at the end of the story, what happens is a head falls down the chimney. His dog sees it, falls over, and dies in shock. And the drawing of the head you actually get to see, which is just absolutely freaking terrifying. It's covered in blood coming right out the bottom of its neck. It's just the chilling nostrils that you could see there. You could see the shape of the nose. Just the facial expressions it's doing are something that if you saw as a young child, you definitely wouldn't be able to get out of your head.
So, I think my favorite stories that I liked a lot were like all the weird. There's a couple of them, but there were these weird, these dating stories or these dance stories where this guy would take this girl to a dance and then he'd take her home. And I think this was the third book, because I recently read it. It was where the guy drove the girl home, and then she said she'd walk up this road he didn't need to drive her up it, and then he waited 15 minutes, and then he drove back up the road, and he saw there was this car on fire next to this tree. So obviously the girl was a ghost. So I always like those good stories for some reason, because I guess it's just kind of weird and creepy. But those were sort of my favorite ones. I mean, it's probably stupid, but obviously everyone likes Harold the Scarecrow. I mean, that one was just creepy, but yeah.
Yeah, and these are some of the most memorable stories. Harold, again, is kind of like your stereotypical story about, a scarecrow coming to life. And the drawing that they have for Harold is of this slumped, incredibly realistic scarecrow of an overweight man, obviously like they described in the story. And the facial expressions that Stephen Gamel was able to make with these drawings is absolutely insane. And he's done a lot of illustration for other kids' books.
Mm-hmm.
He says he doesn't like to talk to the authors when he's making his craft, and he doesn't like being in direct contact with it. He reads the story, and then in his personal opinion, he creates an image of what he sees from the story, and he doesn't want any interference from anyone. And he's illustrated a few stories in the past, like Civil War books, and it's still got the same chilling drawing style with a lot of like loose lines and blood.
Yeah, so Stephen Gamel. Yeah, he was him and the author were very introverted people.
Yeah, Alvin Schwartz, take it from his son himself. He was very invested into his craft, so much to the point that he wouldn't spend time with his children. He would kind of just write these stories out of fun and just a passion for writing. But his kids, how people obviously the children of Steve Jobs, they loved him. They knew he was a great guy, but he didn't make a lot of time for their kids. That sort of story.
Yeah.
Like John Lennon didn't spend a lot of time with kids because his kids got screwed in the end. And all it goes back to the theme is these people who are incredibly invested into their crafts. What happens is that they kind of ignore their children, or they don't plan on doing anything with their children. But just story-wise, aside from the drawings, what are some that stick out to you?
Oh my gosh, that's hard because I actually liked all of them, to be honest.
Well, there are a few lame ones in there.
Yeah, but they're just filler to just not make it so tense. But I just I like the first book, but I still like the third one as well. There's literally so many stories that.
Yeah,
I read.
It's hard to wrap
as
your
a
head around it.
short-term fan, it's kind of hard to remember them all. But Nick here and his brother, they literally read them all the time. Honestly,
yeah. My older brother and I have been reading these books ever since I was younger, and before I could even read, he would tell me these stories. And I remember one personally sticking out to me. Did you read the one about the chair? Squeakity squeak.
Oh yeah,
where a chair, there was a spirit of a chair, and it led to a body, right?
Oh, that was the wedding one. Yeah. Okay. So there was a story where the bride and groom did hide and seek, and the bride hid in this chest because she said, "Oh, no one would find me here," and she hid in it, and it locked. The chest locked, so she couldn't get out. So she got stuck in this chest, and obviously no one could find her. So for years, this dead bride was stuck in this chest in this attic, and I think it was the maid or something like that. I think it was 10 years later. Said, "Oh, I wonder if it's in the grandfather's chest," and she opened it up and the dead bride was in there.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was kind of creepy, but
yeah, the first story of all of these books is personally one of my least favorite, and I think it's the lamest. The way that some of these books are written is it's supposed to be scary stories to tell in the dark, kind of like an exploit book.
Oh yeah,
it became a lot bigger than it was intended to be. The first one is about a kid who digs up a toe.
Yeah, and then eats
that he finds in the yard.
Really weird.
And what happens towards the end of the story, he makes it, and his whole family has the soup, and they're like, "Oh, you got a toe!" In the back of my mind, I'm like, "Why are they eating a toe? That's disgusting." I wouldn't if I saw a giant toe in the yard. I mean, I guess the economy was bad or something at the time. They were all hungry or looking for food.
No, it was they're all. If you guys read the book, on the back of the book, it shows all his references and folklore and all the other stuff that he got inspired by to make all these stories.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are based off of old folklore.
Yeah, all around the world too. So this is one of these books that played a pivotal point in kids' childhoods where they were exposed to something a little different, something a little scary. And probably for the first time in a lot of kids' lives, they were exposed to stories around the world where it was something completely different. A lot of these stories I've never heard before, but some of these I have. Anyway, the big toe one at the end, it's supposed to be a build-up where the kid's sleeping at night after he found this toe. His family cooked it up. Okay, so for the audience listening there, that was supposed to be a dramatic effect. What happened is I dropped Ryan's pop filter, but pretty much what happened in the story is, there's like this small like dramatic effect is going on, and he hears a voice coming from at like the door. He says, "Where is my toe?" And in the new movie, in the trailer, we see this,
Yeah.
and I feel like they're gonna exploit this or make it something stupid, which we'll get to in a little bit. But this particular story, they knock, and it says at the end you're supposed to scream directly in your
it's kind of
the
cool.
audience's faces.
It doesn't do that often though. If you read
Yeah.
through it, like
In the later books, it doesn't
Yeah.
have a lot of that, but there are some songs in there that it tells you to play.
Yeah.
Like the hearse, it's a song about a hearse driving by. Songs about when you're buried and the worms come and eat the jelly in between your toes.
it's just kind of funny because it's like they expect you to like know how to sing these songs.
yeah.
But like if you don't look up a video and like how you're supposed to sing these songs,
and if you don't know how to
it
read
just sounds
sheet music-
super choppy.
Yeah.
But like
exactly.
other than that, it's fine.
Yeah, but there's a definite like. It wasn't supposed to be this grand thing that
Yeah.
changed culture forever,
No.
but it definitely did become something like that. And with the explosion of the first book, it started picking up, and it became even darker and even more humorous in the second book, where we get terrifying stories like The Thing. Which, do you remember that story at all?
Yes, I do remember that, and the people complaining about the guy's face. I do remember that.
Yeah, so it was a story about a guy who sees a mangled face. A thing. Of course, unrelated to the 1950s The Thing B movie or the 1980s remake of that movie, The Thing. Anyway, he's driving home with his friend, and he sees this face, this terrifying face. And he talks to him, and he's like, "This is terrifying." Then he goes home. It's a dark night. Eventually, they talk about it. They never see it again. A few years later, his friend dies. He looks down at the casket. The same face in the casket. Ooh, terrifying. And the drawing for this face on the Thing story is just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
His teeth are out. They're front and foremost.
Ugh.
Of course, you have the dark lining around the eyes. A lot of his style, I think he did it in like charcoal or pencil or something.
Yeah, it looks
Because there's a
pencil.
lot of like gradients, and there's a lot of just lines of like blood or hair just going everywhere. The amount of detail's insane.
Yeah.
But the image for The Thing is just burnt into my mind.
The one story I like, as I don't know why, but as he said that story, I remember the Wendigo story where the one hunter goes with this native chief, and they go in the woods and they find these footprints, but they don't know where they lead to. And the Native American guide that was like helping him like traverse the forest just in a blizzard or whatever, like left the guy in the middle of the woods, and they couldn't find him for years. And then for some reason, on the side of the campsite, they found, like 10 years later, he's like at this campsite, and there's this guy in like this hood or whatever, and he lifts up his hood, and it's like, it was the same. It was the Native American guy, but like he turned to dust. It was like really creepy. I thought.
And that just terrified you
Yeah, it was
deep inside.
really creepy.
Well, a few other stories that personally, I've got a top 3 right here. One of the creepiest stories for me that just, really, it's not even the picture that burns like a memory into my mind. This story, I think, is actually better than the picture that comes with, and this one's the basket. So these kids come home late one night from chess, and like how back in the day when you had to run to your friend's house in the neighborhood, you'd knock on doors. Before, obviously, we could drive, or we had cell phones and all that. We could communicate in an instant. So what we do is we go over to our friend's house, as I hope kids today should. I don't know. I'm not too old myself, but I'm hoping kids still knock on each other's doors. I'm guessing today there's a lot more texting and emailing and all that going on today. But I remember going over to my friend's house and spending the night there, and then getting home before dark. That was always the thing. And back in the 80s, that was a thing too. So the story's about 2 kids, and they come home. They're playing chess or something, and the one kid's going home, and he sees an old lady. And this story, just with the amount of violence and how drastic it was, so this kid's going, and he sees a sickly old lady with a basket. He goes over, and obviously, as any kid would do, but of course in the 80s we talked to strangers a lot more, but he goes over to the old lady and he's like, "Hi miss, can I help you carry your basket?" To what she says, "Okay." Then
There's a head in it.
He looks over. There's a head in it. The head jumps out. The kid screams, and he runs back to his house as the head is jumping and following him home. That to me,
Oh, that's so creepy.
That to me is just an image burnt in my head. It reminds me of the fun of going home at night from a friend's house, and just the urgency of getting home in time before dark, because dark's when all the creepy shit would happen. And just imagining a head chase a kid down. That to me just terrified me. But that by far is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, okay, since I'm like recently read all these books, it's like I guess I'm still trying to process it all, because there's like, in my opinion, there's so many good ones. It's really hard to like determine which ones are like good. I mean, most of them are pretty good, I'd say, and then I mean some of them are kind of like filler, but like
yeah. Another story that really stuck out in my head is the Wonderful Sausage one, which I've, again, reading this as a kid.
Yeah, this is so creepy.
Yeah, it's about a butcher, and the butcher one day, his ex-wife, again, it tells you from his perspective as well. He's having a fight with his ex-wife, and he's like, you know what? He was like the most beloved butcher in the town. And you were saying, Ryan?
That, the butcher killed his wife pretty much. He put her in a meat grinder and
turned her in to
sausage.
Wonderful Sausage.
Yeah. So then,
and he sold it
to people,
Wonderful Sausage.
and people loved it. So then, what he kept doing was he kept killing all these people. Like, he killed all these fat people, and like he turned them into sausage.
He'd kill children.
Yeah.
He would kill cows.
It was really messed
kill,
up.
Any dogs, cats that he could find, because nobody knew what this meat was. It was just a special meat.
Yeah,
it
it was
popular
a
in the
quote-unquote
town.
special recipe.
Yeah, so what happens towards the end is he tries to get a little fat kid.
And he
A
escapes.
little fat kid. He grabs him by the hand, and the kid's get out. He escapes. And everyone tells him, and then at the end it kind of leaves it open-ended. It's like nobody knows what happened to not Harold. Nobody knows what happened to the butcher at the end of the story, whether or not he was turned into his own sausage and shared through the town or something like that. But it kind of leaves like an open-ended ending to it, which is just crazy. Another story that definitely sticks out in my mind would be the Oh Susanna story, which this one is just blatant. It's quick, and it's just baffling how just bizarre this story. So what happens is someone out in the night, it's this couple, this older couple, and they're pretty mad, and they hear, "Oh Susanna, won't you cry?" And they, shut up! That's what he's saying. And this guy goes out and he yells at the voice outside because he can't sleep, and he's with his wife or something. And so he says, "Shut up!" And he hears, "Oh, Susanna, why don't you cry for me?" And he's like, "Shut up!" He yells again. He's like, "Shut up!" So he goes to bed, and after the third time, he has to do it again. "Oh, Susanna, shut up!" So he yells, and finally the singing stops. So what happens is he tiptoes back to bed, goes to bed, and he looks in the bed, and he sees that his wife in the bed is missing a head.
Yeah.
It's completely beheaded and covered in blood. Now, there's no picture for this one.
Oh, yeah.
It's just this little, like, skull creature with a deformed body. But just the image of just waking up, having someone sing outside, and then going to your bed and seeing someone that you were laying with just having their head completely torn off
really
is just
weird.
baffling. Like, these characters didn't do anything to deserve it. They just got mad that someone was singing. It's just bizarre.
I think that another creepy one that I'm starting to remember from the third book was where there was a character. These townspeople believed in like this swamp monster, and the one guy like didn't believe them. So what he did was he went out at night to go like find him, and all the townsfolk like stayed behind him so they wouldn't get eaten or whatever. And he went by candlelight, and the candle went out, and they didn't know where he went, so they tried looking for him. And they didn't find him, and then somebody found him like hanging on a tree or something like that, and they think like the creature got him or something like that. I thought that one was kind of creepy.
So this brings us to where we are today in 2019, where a lot of these stories are going to be made into movies. And personally, I love the visuals. What do you think about the visuals in the trailer?
I think they're pretty accurate to the book.
Yeah. So a lot of the visuals I love, and I heard about this story of like these books getting turned into movies for literally years. And we actually, my older brother rented us a movie for us to go check out, and it was this documentary on scary stories.
It
and
was
it has
really bad.
terrible
It was
ratings
horrible.
on Amazon. And we were all saying, like, why does this have such terrible ratings on Amazon? Is it because people think it's the proper movie, like the movie that's coming out this year? People can't be that dumb. But
No.
most of the ratings were that was the problem. But we spent our good like $10 on this movie, and we don't buy movies very often. But we wanted to watch this documentary. It was just, I can't explain what was terrible about it. Like this,
It just had like a C-level quality to it.
Yeah, it just some of the like the transitions and stuff were good. But there's a part where this lady is telling the story about the zit, which is a story about a girl who gets a
acne.
spider bite.
It's like
And
symbolism.
towards the end of the story, what happens is it's a acne, and the mother says it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It finally grows, and she pops it, and spiders crawl out. And she's telling it to like little kids or something in the story, and it's supposed to, I guess, symbolize how we pass down these stories. But just the way that this documentary was just
fake.
terrible. It was
Yeah.
so fake. The acting was so bad, and it didn't pay homage to the books in the right way, if you know what I mean. But in 2019, of course, we're liking the trailer so far. What do you think about the trailer again? Good?
The trailer. Yeah. The creatures look very accurate because Guillermo del Toro, if anyone knew, is on this project doing the monster. So obviously that I knew was in perfectly good hands. I just think Nick and I are kind of iffy about this whole like It takes place in the 1960s. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it takes place in the 1960s, and it's like.
Ooh,
They
the
randomly
spookiest decade.
they randomly just go in this house, like they dare each other, and they and like all the stories are in like literally a book.
Yeah, again, and this is
It
what I
just-
hate about it.
It seems
Scary-
like Goosebumps. We were
Yeah.
talking about this earlier.
And if anyone listening have you seen Trick or Treat, Ryan, or no?
no, I
Okay.
need to see that.
But you know,
I
like
need to see
the,
it.
the whole idea of like an anthology horror movie, and again, I hate to say Goosebumps, but you know how like it's a movie and you have 3 different stories, and
Yes.
sometimes they intersect or sometimes they don't. So Trick or Treat does really, really well, which makes that an awesome movie if you ever want to check that one out. That's what I was hoping this was. Like, did you ever see the Twilight movie in the 80s or no?
The Twilight Zone movie, no, but
Yeah.
I've seen scenes
So
from
in the
it.
Twilight Zone movie, it's broken into like 3 or 4
Stories,
different
yes,
parts.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
and it's just shown like that. It's an anthology movie.
See, that I would be fine
Just-
with that.
Yeah, like Tales from the Crypt, same sort of idea, and that's what I was hoping is that they'd have different directors, or
Yeah.
maybe one person tell some different stories in a sequential order and have something cool at the end, kind of like a mini series TV show.
Yeah.
Where you get all these put in one. But no. We couldn't get that, Ryan. You know what we got instead? From what I'm picking up from this trailer, is it's just gonna be scary Goosebumps.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's-
oh guys, watch out! Meet Ty Doty Walker is gonna get you. It's Harold the Scarecrow. It's just like in the book. Oh, I hate it. I hate
I
the
don't know.
concept of just it's all the spooky monsters. Like
Yeah.
it was done in
Goosebumps in like 1,000 other movies.
even before Goosebumps.
Jumanji,
It was done in
there's
like
a board game.
2005. It was done with Scooby-Doo 2 or Scooby-Doo, where all the creatures are coming back from all of the history, and so stupid. It makes no sense. Like,
but I think
I
it'll be-
understand with something like Scooby-Doo, where you're trying to pay homage to everything, but with scary stories, it just doesn't work like that.
Well,
Like-
I know what you're saying. I think it might be interesting to have it in like the 60s because it's still kind of like old timey, I guess, in a way. And it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like modern day. Like, oh my God, there's all this scary stuff happening.
Oh god, and they obviously they could just be blatant with it, like, oh no, the spooky haunted cell phone's gonna get me. Ooh. Speaking of which, a lot of horror movies today just aren't as good as they could
Well,
be.
I think they're starting to come back. 'Cause-
A few of them,
yes,
definitely.
like
Conjuring is definitely a great
Conjuring.
example.
Okay, so in 2017, I think in recent years was my favorite years for a movie because it had the first it had Baby Driver, had Dunkirk, it had a lot of good movies that year. Spider-Man. Oh, I love 2017.
2017.
2017 was a good year for movies.
I would highly agree.
As soon as I saw it, my friend Mike and I started watching the Conjuring movies. Conjuring 1 and 2 are great horror movies, in my opinion. And then,
And
I think
also
it was
based off of a true story.
Yes, it is a true story. I forget the couple.
It's the Warrens.
Yeah,
And
the
they're
Warren
actually a
couple.
priest
They're a real couple that did real paranormal investigations. And their house you can still view today, and they have all these paranormal artifacts that they
And
have from all
demonic
their
possessions and all that.
it's really creepy because I mean probably everyone or some people know the Annabelle doll, and I don't know if she's in the Warren house or not. I don't think so.
She is in the Warren
Oh, she
house.
is? Okay, so she's in a glass case, and in order to touch her,
You have to
you
do
have
a
to
blessing and
wear
all that.
gloves. Yes, you need to do a blessing, and you need to have like you need to have gloves on. You have to have like holy water on you. It's like crazy.
Well, I feel like a lot of people are familiar with like the whole Annabelle story and the whole Conjuring movies. But definitely when it comes to like horror movies, the Conjuring stories are definitely a silver lining. I I don't know why, but in 2018 there was a lot of again the exploit horror movies that we saw. I personally I don't know why I was drawn to see it, but there were two movies that stuck out to me and just actually four horror movies. The four past horror movies that I've seen in theaters just gave me such a bad like exploit sort of taste in my mouth. The first one that I saw, I believe, was Truth or Dare.
Why?
Which was this absolutely like
Oh my
it was
God,
advertised
what
on
have you
Snapchat.
done?
I don't know.
You should not
Girlfriend
have seen
wanted me
it.
to.
Oh,
You know.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
I
it is.
had to. Ugh. And don't even get me started. Now the tickets at like the movie tavern are like $16,
Yeah.
and Regal like everywhere else. I think how much is AMC? Like 13.
Okay,
still?
AMC. No, AMC's 14. That's if you reserve it.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
AMC's awesome. And when I go to college, we have an AMC in town, so I'm definitely hitting AMC up.
Yeah, but it's still $14 on movie tickets.
I know.
Insane. Plus $10.
But it's
for
worth it though,
popcorn.
because you pay an extra dollar.
I guess so. To
and you get
reserve
nice
it.
chairs and all that crap.
Mm-hmm. And you do get the recliners now.
Yes.
Movie theaters are trying to be a lot better than they used to in the day.
They're
where
trying
you
to
had
be
look over
more
people's heads.
high end.
But anyway, back to the main topic here. I saw Truth or Dare, and the whole gimmick with that was the idea that, like, you know, it's a Truth or Dare game, and it's made by some satanic demon, and this demon's gonna come around. And if you dare someone, you're gonna have to do the dare, even if you don't want to. Either you die if you do the dare, or you don't.
Yeah. Well, I think to
Like,
me
that makes you kill yourself, and that movie was just so bad.
yeah. That movie and Happy Death Day were like
Happy Death Day.
it was better than Truth or Dare, but I didn't see it, but I heard it. It was like okay.
I wouldn't consider it like a full-on horror movie.
Yeah.
It's more of like an
drama?
adventure, like a drama, like a
yeah.
what-if story, I want to say. But that Truth or Dare definitely did stick out. I think it was a little better than a lot of the stuff that I've seen. The next movie that I saw that I'm not even certain why it was out in theaters was the Slenderman movie, which
Oh
should have
my
been
God,
released in
yeah.
like 2013
Ugh.
when the Slenderman was actually a thing.
Well, it's probably the special effects and all that crap. They probably
Well,
thought it was not going to be as good.
We'll
I
get
don't
to
know.
this.
Yeah.
What happened was, I mean, I'm assuming it was a much better movie than it was. Not saying that you know a Slenderman movie could be good at all, but what happened towards the end with the movie was, of course, the Slenderman killings happened, so they had to take out most of the violence in it. So literally, there's
It
no
got
violence
neutered.
in the story at
Yeah.
all. The movie is just so boring, and it's about the kids, and they go on the deep web, and they summon the Slenderman after watching a video, which is the dumbest plot point to, you know, release your evil monster in the movie anyway. And it was just so bafflingly just boring because there was nothing shocking you, nothing just, again, like the scary stories, just making you jump or making you dwell on this idea of something that's scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And finally, third and foremost, actually, I got one more. The Nun was the next movie that I
That
saw.
movie was. Ugh.
And that was just terrible. It was this really, really weak origin story that they just conjured up for The Conjuring. No pun intended there. But what they did with this was they had like a subplot with the Warrens, which I'm not really sure if it was true, but it's about this demonic nun that would follow them around. So of course, being the Hollywood blockbuster that they are, the Hollywood movie studio, with all these Conjuring movies, what they did was they went around and they made another, you know, prequel or sequel or whatever for this movie, and of course it was just absolute garbage doo-doo because you can't just make a movie off of nothing, as we're seeing here. And you'll see a lot of these, like, they're exploits in the fact that they just have all one gimmick. Like, Truth or Dare is just like, ooh, it's the spooky Truth or Dare game. You die if you don't. The Nun is, ooh, guys, it's spooky Nun here. And the fourth one that I saw that was just absolutely terrible was the new Annabelle. And again, I
Oh,
haven't seen the other
God.
Annabelles because they're not even worth my time. at all.
What are they on, like the third Annabelle movie
They're
now?
on the third. It's called Annabelle
It's so
Returns.
stupid.
And again, it's just another made-up story about some kids that are watching the people, the Warrens kids,
Yeah.
and they're having like a baby sleepover or whatever. They're like they're watching. The
No,
kids.
it's a
They're being-
prequel. It's a prequel.
They're being like a babysitter or whatever,
Yeah.
and spooky Annabelle comes out, and it was just awful.
With Annabelle, our favorite YouTube channel, Red Letter Media, there was an episode that we saw where they did a competition for, I don't know if it was the first or second Annabelle movie, but what they did was,
I think it was the second.
yeah, and they said, oh yeah, Hollywood was like, oh yeah, just come to we'll give you like a gift trip to Hollywood, and like you can make your own movie and something like that. And apparently it just ended up being a movie idea stealing event.
Yeah,
where
and
people
they
would
give you
their
like $10.
ideas, and they literally pay for their ideas like for $60, and they
You get
say,
nothing
yeah,
out
you
of
get nothing.
that.
Say, hey, bye. And
You
it's
just
like,
get to meet the director of this sham movie.
it was just ridiculous. But horror movies, I'd say my two favorite horror movies of last year. I'd probably say my favorite was Hereditary. I like that movie a lot.
I did not like Hereditary.
Really?
That to me was an exploit. What happened was it was like the big fair night that happens at the end of the school year, the fire fair. And what happened was we went, and I didn't drive at the time, so I had to get my cousin to pick me up from the fair.
Mm-hmm.
And she was with her friend, and she was like shaking because she's like sort of religious, and she was terrified, wouldn't talk to anyone. I'm like, I said to her friend, her tall friend, I said, what's going on? Like, why isn't she talking? And she's like, oh, we just saw Hereditary, and it's about like satanic rituals or something.
Oh gosh.
And she's scared and terrified of it. I'm like, oh, Jesus, if this movie's that scary, I gotta see this tomorrow. I haven't even heard of this movie. So I went down to the movie theater, saw it the next day, and was just baffled with how
Really?
just lame it was.
Are you serious?
I'll explain. Just give me a second. So again, this is gonna be spoilers for Hereditary if you haven't seen the movie yet. I'm not saying don't see the movie. I personally didn't like it myself, but there's a build-up to when they're going, and everything's going wrong. The kid's smoking weed, so he can't drive, and the family's falling in shambles. And what happens is the kid, he's being trustworthy. He's got a weird little younger sister, and she does weird stuff. And he brings her to the party because he has to bring her along. That whole little subplot thing.
Oh, yeah.
But something that really got me with that is she sticks her head out the window on the pole, and everyone was freaking out when the scene happened.
Well, she was trying to get air, so we're like, okay, she's just trying to get air.
And everyone that I talked to absolutely loved the build-up of this scene, like how terrible it was. The girl's going out the window, and he's driving her home at night because she's like choking or something's happening to her.
Allergic reaction.
Yeah, allergic to reaction to
tree
cake
nuts.
or something.
Yeah.
And she's going out, and then he drives. She slams her freaking head into a pole, and it comes clean right off. You don't see it. You just see her head hit the pole for like a split second.
Some people
like
notice this. If you remember when they were going down that road, there's that symbol on the pole where she hit her head.
Oh God!
So the whole thing was planned. There's that dead animal on the road. Remember?
Yeah.
So it was all purposeful.
Thing,
yeah, because in the movie, it was like some sub demon of Satan or something like that. I forget what his name was.
Baphomet or
but it
some
only
shit.
went through male offspring. So this whole cult. Well, I thought it was kind of cool. The demon somehow got into the girl's body, so this cult wanted it to go back in the brother.
Right, really quickly. So what happens after this is, after the scene where the girl's head falls off, is there's like a 10 seconds of silence. And you hear the kid, you hear the older brother, and he goes up to the top room, and after he crashed, obviously he's in shock. He's drunk, he's high, so he goes up to bed, and you hear him go to sleep. You see him go to sleep, and you don't see anyone else's reactions, but you hear the mother go, and she screams at the top of her lungs in a blood-curdling scream, and you see on the ground the girl's freaking head covered with ants and blood all over on the floor.
Yep.
And that was just like the most baffling thing, that you would just kill off a child in the first few seconds of the movie. And from this point out in Hereditary, I think it just goes on a downward spiral. Like, you see, it becomes like this sort of like torture porn. As you see the family fall apart, the mother is absolutely just freaking, like, the whole family's sad. The son feels incredibly guilty for what they did. The mom is like getting crazier and crazier. And then what happens, she goes over and she's in the parking lot, and there's this lady, and she's like, oh, I did a seance, and they're talking about how they struggled losing someone. It just falls apart from there because it comes a spooky ghost story, but then it's not a spooky ghost story. It's this really complex story about some demon, and it just towards the end it just gets so stupid. But your thoughts
oh
on
my, I thought it was good though because. Like I didn't really, I guess, because I don't know. I didn't really expect the woman that she was talking to be like evil. I guess
like a twist villain.
yeah. So she was like kind of a twist villain. So then like after they do the seance thing to like talk to their daughter, she tries to go back to her house, but it's like it's all covered and there's no one in there, and like you see all the ritual stuff like set up in there.
Yeah. And you find out she was actually trying to conjure spirits.
That started freaking me out, and then. See, I forget why, but then the cult goes after this part. I don't know why, but I thought this was creepy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But they go to the house, and the mom, I don't get it. So the mom somehow gets possessed. I didn't really understand that part, but like
exactly,
it was like
there's too many things going on.
I think it was I think it was the spirit. I think it was the sub demon of Satan or whatever, because he set the dad on fire. Remember?
Yeah, and then
the dad
there's
on fire,
spooky thing where it's like the gay sex ritual, and everyone's naked, and he floats up, and he's actually King Baphomet or some shit like that.
So then it possessed the mom. But I thought this was creepy when they go in the attic.
Yeah.
And
there's the dead body up there.
No. So he got up in the attic and like he was looking around. See, I don't know. I forget how the mom. I don't even know how the mom. I guess she like went around on the roof or something like that, and she literally like broke open her own neck and like she died right in front of the son. And the son's looking around, and it was so creepy. It was like all these naked cult people around the house, and they were in the attic looking out, like smiling. It was so creepy. He jumps out the window, obviously like breaks his neck, dies. So then the spirit of like the sub spirit or whatever demigod of Satan like possesses the kid because it's obviously the boy.
Yeah.
And then they go up, and then he goes up in like the tree house that they have there, and they just like worship him. That was the end of the movie.
See,
I thought
that
creepy.
was really shitty towards the end because all you hear is like ding ding, like church bells and all this church sounds, but you see satanic imagery, and it's like ooh, spooky, scary Satan, ooh, blood and naked old men. Like I thought that whole section of it.
It's ridiculous. I don't know. I just thought it was scary. It had the thing that I liked
about
it
didn't feel funny than scary.
It didn't feel cheap. You know, to me it didn't feel cheap because there were like no jump scares in the whole movie, pretty much.
Well, yeah.
Like the first scene where
I will admire for that.
Working on when the mom has like a thing for working on miniatures, and she was working on one, and their grandma recently died or something like that, and she turned, I forget why.
Oh yeah, she turned
the lights off, and you see like it was like the only reference to her the entire movie, and you see like the grandma like smiling in the corner. It was really creepy.
Yeah, to me the movie just didn't resonate with me. I thought it was shitty. And I laughed a lot because I thought it was very goofy with like the whole seance thing. And the spirits are moving. Like I thought the whole twist that it was a demon, not a poltergeist. Like that thing's been done like 100 times.
I don't know. I just liked it because I just didn't feel like it was cheap, and it was something I liked.
I personally didn't like it, but it was something different.
It was
I
something
will admire
very different
for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of movies that I laughed at a lot more than I was scared of, but I did actually really enjoy. This brings us to the 2018 remake of It, correct? 2017 remake of It, correct?
Yeah, I did not think that movie was scary. I mean, there were some parts that like freaked me out, like when they went in the haunted house or whatever.
I thought it was freaking terrifying.
Really?
I thought it was scary, but I laughed through a majority of the scares.
The one scene everyone...
Well, I think the thing that really it really sets the tone for the whole thing. Again, spoilers if you have been a human being and haven't watched any horror movies in like the past 10 years or haven't any like social or osmosis of any culture at all. The beginning scene of It where the kid, little Georgie, is walking down.
Yeah,
and they remake
awesome.
the section where he bites his arm off.
Oh my god! Everyone was like literally like
freaking out. The thing about the original 1970s like TV drama for It,
1990.
You sure? I think
Yeah.
it was 70.
Okay, the book was made, and then the TV show
okay.
special
Well,
came out in 1991.
In the TV show, what happened was, when the clown's going out,
Tim
when
Curry,
Pennywise,
yep.
Tim Curry is about to bite the kid's arm off, all you see is him, and he has slightly sharper teeth.
Yeah.
And there's like a sense that's like doon, but
Yeah.
in this one, you see
Oh
his
my
teeth,
God.
and it comes out in this giant, like gelatinous
Yeah.
monster
Oh my
form,
God.
and you see him take a deep bite
It was-
into Georgie's
it was
arm,
nasty.
and the tension building up between that.
Yeah.
You see just the imagery,
Yeah,
Bill
ugh.
Skarsgård's
It was-
face.
yeah,
You
Bill
see the
Skarsgård, yeah.
kid, it zooms out, and you don't see, like a lot of times when there's gore in horror movie, you don't
Yeah.
see everything, but I like how it
You
was
literally
shot
see
all in one shot,
everything.
so it looks like you were seeing it all in one.
Yeah.
You see Georgie, and his
Yeah.
arm is fucking flailing everywhere. There's
Well, no,
blood.
yeah. So the creature bit off Georgie's arm, and that like shocked everybody. And he's trying to crawl away from the and then this
And
long arm just comes out, grabs his leg, and just literally pulls it. It was so creepy.
And the thing that, I'll say this, it freaks me out a lot
Yeah.
about movies. And if you listen in 2019, maybe this will be like a cliche or something, but when you kill a child off brutally in a movie,
it was
that will
brutal.
shock your audience
Yes,
for a
that
while.
was a shocker.
Like Hereditary, that really got me because they literally kill a child within like the first 10 minutes of
Yeah.
the movie, which was just baffling again. And it though, the music, everything
Yeah,
about it,
the
the
build-up was
silence,
good.
the build up to when they pull off Georgie's arm is just the freakiest thing ever.
Yeah, I think Bill Skarsgård was a good choice for it because he's tall.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's
It goes
super
without
tall.
saying.
And not to say he's ugly, but he's just like when he has the makeup on, he looks like a very scary clown.
And I like how they kind of retold it as like an
Yes.
80s.
Yeah, just to modernize
like-
it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like how they brought it into the 80s, but they kind of turned
Yeah.
it into like an 80s kids, like Goonies,
Yeah,
Spielberg.
yeah, I like
Spielberg
that.
sort of
Everybody
movie.
liked the kids. The kids were probably the best part
Yeah,
of the movie.
that, by far.
Oh my god, they were super funny.
Taking the one guy from Stranger Things, having
Yeah.
the one kid, his gimmick. I think in the book he's like the
He has
where he's got the
asthma.
fake sicknesses and all that.
Yeah, I like that kid.
And
I forget-
obviously, they changed a few of the monsters up. Like in the original, what happens is like the werewolf comes out or something like Frankenstein to scare the one kid because he's scared of like werewolves. That's his biggest fear. But how they sort of modernized it in it is they made it so his fear kind of played in with like the fear of getting sick that was instilled by his mom. So they have like a pauper now, and said the Jewish kid in the movie, I forget what his fear is
Yeah.
in the book, but his literal fear in the new movie is a painting.
Yeah,
and
that
that's
was
the way the
creepy.
clown comes out and scares him. The one kid's fear is just clowns, so he comes out as Pennywise. And the kid who lost Georgie, again, I'm forgetting all these kids' names. Right after I watched the movie, I probably would have known everything.
Yeah.
Well, his fear was like the clown coming out, the painting.
Yeah.
But they modernized a lot of how they did the
Oh,
fears. The freaky part, usually, and again, I've got a lot of hopes for what they do with It number 2. I'm hoping number 2 is
Oh,
good.
it looks really
'Cause-
good.
Yeah, the best part of it is
the
like
kids.
even with is the section where they're kids. Like even in the original TV drama when they
Oh
did
my
that,
god, yeah.
the best part's when they're kids, and when they're adults, it just gets
It's,
weird
eh.
and stupid. And even in the book too. But I feel like they're really going to change that
Yeah,
with the
it
second
looks,
one.
they look a little more interesting, I guess you could say. But the one thing that I thought was kind of ridiculous about the 2017 It that I thought was funny, 2 parts actually, was I know in the 91 version when Beth had like the blood explode, this thing, it was like small.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah. In the 2017,
It's
a
just-
literal geyser of blood comes out of this thing, and I just laughed because I'm like, this is so ridiculous.
It's so over the top.
It was so over the top. Like,
and I think
it coated the entire bathroom.
I think they knew what they were doing with that movie because the whole thing was like entirely. There's scenes in the movie where they just go to the max. There's like distortion of the audio. We all float down here, Georgie.
Yeah,
And then
that was
there-
good.
you
Like
can
Bill
hear the
Skarsgård.
clipping.
Yeah.
But it just went completely like you could tell it made for modern audiences, but it was also like a lot smarter
Yeah.
than it usually was.
Well,
They could have done with it.
the other part I laughed at was like a lot of people got scared of this, but I laughed so hard when this happened. It was the projector scene where they're looking through the slideshows
yeah.
of Derry, and like he shows up, and his face was so. Oh wait, no, sorry. This just reminded me of the
Yeah,
third
they're
one.
looking at the slides.
Yeah, they're looking at slides, and then he comes out, as this ridiculous like
Like
four-legged giant. It was so like funny. I was literally like the only one in the theater laughing because of how ridiculous it looked.
Yeah, you could have taken this movie two ways. Either, ooh, spooky clown scares me.
Yeah.
Or you could have seen it as like, this. I love how it was. How do I put this? It was more freaky than scary. You know what I mean?
It was
like,
freaky.
if something like that were to exist, it would be absolutely terrifying.
Oh my god, yeah.
But just seeing that, it's the disconnect from reality, and seeing how good the special effects are, and how freaky everything is in the movie, and how freaky the lighting and all the scenes are, it just freaks you the hell out. So I would say it is freakier more than scary, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then the third part.
And I think I know what this is.
Yes, everybody knows what this part is. It was a meme, and it was in Fortnite, unfortunately. It was the one where
is that really?
Yeah, that dance was in the not taking the L. It was the stupid dance he was doing with like his two arms.
Is that really supposed
Yes, yes. It was in Fortnite. I never I'm telling you guys this right now. I've literally only played 2 hours of Fortnite, and this was like a year ago, and I never wanted to play it again because I number one, you could probably call me a noob, but I've played 100 plus video games other than Fortnite that I'd rather spend my time on.
I think I have to play Fortnite now.
No,
to
you
see
don't.
This dance.
You can just look it up.
No, I need to buy the dance
No,
so I can.
stop.
I don't need to win
No,
any
you
games.
can just look it up on YouTube. No, stop. It's on. Yeah, I'm serious.
But
I'm serious.
the scene-
When the dance, like when this meme got popular, I guess people wanted it in Fortnite and they just put it in Fortnite.
Yeah, but for context in the movie's sake, so what happens is all the kids are terrified because Beverly got taken.
Beth gets captured.
Beth,
Yes, that's
I thought
why.
it was Bev. Oh, Beverly. Okay.
Yeah,
She
Beverly.
Gets,
It was
the
Beverly,
girl
I
gets
think.
taken.
Yeah.
And it's like the most terrifying part. The stakes are the highest because she's down in the well. She's all
Yeah.
the way down in its lair in the sewers. And what happens is you see her and
Oh
he's
my
taunting
God,
her. And he
yes.
comes out and the music's like not that song,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
March of the Gladiators, but like circus music is playing. And he does this pumping dance.
It was
and his
so
face is so
stupid.
angry.
No, his face was like flat. He had a
yeah.
flat face, and he was doing this stupid dance. And Beth was looking at him like, "What are you
And the
doing?"
music's like pumping so loud. I thought it was again freaky.
Are you,
'Cause
yeah,
it
it was
wasn't-
freaky,
it
but I
wasn't-
laughed because it was so stupid.
That I thought was just funny as hell.
It was. Beth was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
I also love the accent that they gave him. Hey, Georgie, you want to come down
Yeah.
here? We'll float down here. And I
Yeah,
love the
I liked
idea that, in the story, in this modern incarnation, they were able to do a lot more of the special effects
Oh,
they
yeah.
had where he makes he's got like claws, right? Like obviously with his teeth, he has like a whole bunch of like.
Well, he
growths
can
from
destroy.
different
Okay, so
animals.
the what I've heard from the books is that there were two beings when the universe was made. There was the turtle, which gets referenced in the movie, but it's not like
just crackpot crazy stuff that Stephen King was writing.
So the good spirit was the turtle, or the good image was the turtle, and Stephen King said the other creature was like an evil looking form, like it was almost formless. It didn't really have a form. So it's one of those things where they said it like we can't really, like, humans can't really perceive what it really looks like. So we picture it how we think it looks like so
yeah, like it feeds off
clowns,
our fears.
and fears and all that stuff. And like, so it can pretty much take whatever form it wants, and we don't really know.
But
what
I
it
like
looks
this idea, every like 40 years it comes back.
Yeah,
to feed.
27. Yeah.
Like, that's freaky, and I love how it's going to take place in modern year in this
Yeah.
one, and that to me is just going to be absolutely just awesome to see it in modern times with all these kids grown up.
Okay, so
Anyway, Stephen King was absolutely
if you
insane
haven't
with
seen,
his
if
writing.
you haven't seen if you haven't seen It Chapter 1, go see it. 90s one is also good. Tim Curry is really good in that one. That and the kids were the best part. It's kind of cheesy by today's standards, but I'd still watch it. But yeah, definitely see the 2017 It movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And then, so back to 2018. Okay, so
With
we talked
movies,
about
yeah.
Hereditary. Quiet Place.
I
was
never saw that
decent.
one. Tell me
Quiet
about it.
Place. Okay. It's a very unique concept, but they kind of screwed it up in the beginning of the movie because there's a theme that I feel like, I don't know why Hollywood, I mean, hopefully they're getting better at this, but there's a concept that most people don't like, but I do. It's called show, don't tell.
Yeah.
And people these days, I feel, always need an answer for something, and they can't be left hanging, and there's not really much. I feel like, well, I mean, I could
like
be
for
proven wrong.
example, again, I hate to talk about Star Wars again because I'll bring that up whenever. Han Solo.
Yeah, that
He's
was
a
bad.
character.
Yes.
Well, given I know Solo was made for
You don't
money,
need to
it felt
explain Han
terrible.
Solo, and for some
Exactly.
reason
He's a
Hollywood
character.
says you need to explain it. It's just
Shouldn't have a backstory.
I
The
know.
whole point of him is
I
he's
know.
mysterious. You don't have to know where he got the Falcon and where he met Chewbacca. Same thing
It
with the
doesn't matter.
Joker. Every time the Joker's had a
Yes.
backstory, it's always been terrible.
I know. Well, no, except for the Killing Joke, but the Killing Joke was like a 30-page book.
But
so-
still, at the end of the Killing Joke, it's ambiguous
Yes,
whether or not the
it's an
story he's telling
ambiguous
is
ending,
true.
and
He's not
then-
supposed to have a backstory. That's the fun
Yeah.
of the
Joker,
character.
yes.
Is it's a mystery. Show, don't tell. Don't literally tell me. Han, what's your name? Han, party affiliation, Solo.
Yeah, it was
Like,
stupid.
oh,
But that's what happened to Rogue One. I mean, I saw the movie 3 times, but I realized
It just explains too much.
over and over. No, it's not that it explains too much. It's that the problem is we already know what happens. We already know they all die.
Yeah, you don't
They
have
literally
to
in the
show us.
first quote unquote episode 4, but quote unquote the first Star Wars movie, they said people die to get this information to us. So they literally explained Rogue One in like 2 sentences.
It's like pretty much imagine doing a movie on World War II where it's like imagine Hacksaw Ridge had a 30-minute introduction where it goes through the whole foundation of America, the conquistadors, goes through the Revolutionary War, the
Yeah,
Civil War,
it's-
slavery,
yes.
then it goes all the way up to World War II.
I know.
At that moment, that's pretty much what all this show don't tell shit is.
And well, it's just the thing that I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised. I feel like video games do this better than actual movies,
Oh,
surprisingly.
you got a lot more time.
But
than a video
well,
game
yeah,
sitting
that
down.
too. But the problem that there's this guy named like Film Tonic or something like that, or Film Mento, and he did a video on A Quiet Place and how they screwed up in the first 10 minutes because there's a scene. Okay, so what happens is like aliens like take over the world, but
Yeah.
like they can't see, they can hear. So what this one family, most people are like dead, but there's still people alive, and this one family has Emily. It was Emily Blunt and Ryan Krasinski, or I think
That's the guy. That's
Yeah,
Jim
yeah.
from The Office,
Yeah.
right? That's all about. That's
yeah.
about,
So they them and their 3 kids are at the store, and they pick up a space shuttle for the little boy, and they tell him not to put the batteries in it because obviously if it makes noise they'll get
they'll
get
killed.
made. But the boy takes the batteries, and what they do is when they walk around barefoot, and they carry sand with them, and they put the sand, they make like these sand pads through the town, so obviously it makes less noise. And the little boy puts the batteries in the space shuttle, and it sets, and it's silent, like, so it's like they're not talking, and they use sign language. The girl's deaf, so she uses sign language, but the boy puts the batteries in, and then all of a sudden you see this rustling in the trees. And the thing that they shouldn't have done, they should have made it like put the shot through like a log or something like that, so you only saw the boy but never saw what the creature looked like. And they show
the creature at the
they
end.
show no not the end of the movie, but near the scene. So the boy's like holding the shuttle, and you see this you see the creature in the first 5 or 7 minutes of the movie.
Are you kidding?
Yes, kill the boy, like snatch him, and then like he gets away. So they should have had it like Phil Mento said, you should have had a shot in like a log or something that would have blocked the shot of the creature, so you wouldn't have seen what the creature looked
Are
like.
you freaking kidding me? The whole movie was
Yeah.
advertised this long.
I
You know,
know.
like I guess just general audiences
Yeah.
are too stupid. for
I
it. They just want to
don't
shove
know.
popcorn
I
in their
know.
mouth
The
and see
popcorn
big giant
shovers.
creature. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for big giant creatures when it comes to sci-fi movies. I love seeing big giant creatures. But the whole point of horror
Horror.
movies is you hide the big giant
That's
creature.
okay.
With
A good
it, though-
example is Jaws.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
we all know it was a shark on the
Yeah,
the
so
poster,
you had this
but,
image of a shark.
but you didn't know what it looked like till literally the last 10 minutes of the movie. And I think the problem now is everyone is so used to instant gratification with phones and all that crap, is that they can't even like wait for the thing. Well, I'm not saying most people, but I feel like most, I don't know, general audiences are like too
Yeah.
impatient to wait until for a payoff now.
Exactly.
Because, okay, so then you showed off the creature. So it's like, okay, well, now we know what these things look like and what they can do. So then later in the movie, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt and all of them
So you're
are
pretty
like
much
living on
giving
their farm.
everything about
And
the-
what they do is they have like a light system on their farm at night. So if something bad happens, they have like a red light system or whatever. They have lights so they can see at night. And like obviously, it was a cool rule. So what the dad did to talk to the son one time was that he took him to a waterfall. And it obviously gets loud by a waterfall.
yeah.
So they went under the waterfall and they talked because obviously like the
Because it's
waterfall
a-
hid
the
their
sound,
voice.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's loud. So that was kind of a cool thing.
Why don't you just live under a waterfall then?
Because they have a farm.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay, and so then the mom, I guess, was a doctor because she's like doing the stethoscope thing on like her belly, and they came out with like this whole plan to have this baby. So what they did was she'd have the baby in the bathtub, and
Why are they
then
having babies?
I don't know why they
Aren't
have.
they getting killed or something?
I-
Can't you
they-
just wait a few years?
I
or
don't
something?
know. I don't know, but they wanted to have a baby. That's suicidal in my opinion. But they
Okay,
wanted to have a
continue,
baby.
though.
So then they had this. She wanted to have the baby in the bathtub, and then she would have ran down to the basement of the farm or whatever, and like put them in like this soundproof basement. So like, like if the baby cried or whatever, they couldn't hear it.
What the hell?
But I forget what happens. I don't know if it's like what the son does, but somehow it's been like a year, and I can't really remember. But like the
But had the baby.
son, the baby lives. I'm
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
there. But like somehow the creatures start invading the farm or whatever, and then spoilers for Quiet Place. The dad sacrifices himself to save the kids, so he dies.
Wow, this is sounding just lame.
It's all no. It's you have to see it. It's
a good
pretty. It's
movie
very
still?
tense. Yeah, and then so I don't know. The basement starts flooding. I forget why. It's like it's been a while, and one of the creatures goes in the basement, and the mom hides behind like a little waterfall or whatever, and the monster's like literally like right next to her face, and it's kind of creepy.
But you see the monster, correct or no?
Yeah, you do see the monster. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of weird. It's like. It kind of looks like the monster from Stranger Things, the Demogorgon.
Yeah.
It's like head kind of like expands as all this crazy stuff. And
Anyway, back to this idea of like show don't tell. I mean, tell don't show.
show don't tell.
Show don't
Show don't
tell. Yeah. Okay. Back to that whole idea.
Yeah.
Like you see the monster, you see the spooky monster, but you don't hide it from like. If you're
It's
gonna
different.
have,
It depends on what you're doing.
So you could do it two ways. You can either not show the monster and then hear about what it does and make it scarier, or you can show like an It. You see everything that it's capable of, all the scary shit that it does at the beginning of the movie. And if you're doing that, you have to make the monster interesting.
Yeah.
So as you go on in the movie, I mean, the first shot in the movie, you see one of the first shots, you see the kid get his arm ripped off. So the more you go into the movie, the more you learn about what this creature, how it feeds or what it does and why it's coming for the children, and that makes it even more terrifying as you see it grow with its power and as you see these kids confront it. It adds weight to the actual story, which a lot of movies don't have today.
Well, it's also the same thing that I was just thinking about that. With the original Alien, like they don't show the alien until like an hour and 30 minutes of the movie when
But
you
you
actually
hear
see
about-
it in the vents. That was creepy when I
And
first
you
saw
hear
that.
about what the alien's doing or what could happen.
Well, they don't know what it's
Like,
doing. They just show
I know.
glimpses of it.
Exactly.
And then
But you learn what it can do, who it can kill,
Yeah.
or what its powers are.
And then same year 79, Halloween. I mean, you get you know what Mike Myers looks like, but you don't really get a good grasp on like who he is or like why he's doing what he's doing.
Again, this is more where you show what he looks like and
Yeah.
you show what he's capable of. But as the movie goes on, the tension builds.
Yes.
You learn more about the character and more about why he's out there going to kill. Like you find out that it's his sister he's related to in the end.
Same thing when we saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We saw that a year ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Last Halloween in 2018 we saw that, and literally
I mean,
almost
I've
the
seen it
first
before, but
but the first 30 minutes of the movie, you don't see
don't
the
see- well,
family or you don't see Leatherface.
I will explain though. Of course, if you have not seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I just wouldn't watch another horror movie before you instantly put that one on now. It's an instant classic in certain ways.
It is okay. In some parts, very gory, but it's creepy. It feels very. It has a very realistic tension to it. Like,
It is out. Well, the tension there is there's no tension, and that's the fun part. I'll talk about it just really quickly. The first kill of the movie, in broad daylight, like it's all set up to be a creepy thing. Guy cuts himself on their little VW van or whatever that these kids are going out. It's the same, like, oh, they're staying the night on a creepy farm or whatever, but they go in and they ask for help. I forget why they go into this house and ask for help, but they knock on the farm door and they think, oh, wait, nobody's home. You hear the squealing of a pig, and what happens is Leatherface comes out and just massacres the guy right there. Instant kill in the first few seconds, hangs him on a meat hook, and like there's no tension building up to it, and that's where the tension is.
it was the
That's
one
the
girl. He
scariness
hit
of
the
it.
one girl in the head with a hammer or whatever.
Exactly. Instantaneous, which you don't see a lot in the movies today,
Yeah.
where it's just straight brutal violence with no build up to it,
Yeah.
no telling. And I definitely appreciate when something like that happens.
Well, and then there's a lot of '80s horror movies. I mean, The Thing. I mean, you don't
Hey,
even you don't even know what
yeah.
The Thing looks like. And
Yeah,
same thing with The
But
Shining.
you learn
The-
about the thing.
Yeah.
You build up the tension, and then it pays off when you finally see the scary monster.
And then I still need to see The Shining. I have no idea why. I need to see that movie because
Yeah,
I
me
hear it's a
too.
masterpiece. I hear it's really good. It was on Netflix for a while, and then I was that one guy. I was like, okay, I'll get around to it. But they took it off, so I gotta like rent it sometime.
Yeah.
But I hear. I mean, even that movie's got an ambiguous ending. Where like, did Jack go crazy? Is he a ghost? Like, what is he?
Anyway, as we're closing up with some of our last few movies that we saw, what other horror movies were there? Us, yeah, Us.
Oh, Us.
I personally loved Us.
Yes, Us was a great movie.
It was by the Peele guy, right?
Jordan Peele, the guy that did Get Out. Okay,
Yeah. I never saw Get Out.
Get
so don't
Out-
spoil that for me just yet.
I probably give that movie an 8.
8 out of 10.
It's not a masterpiece, but it's not crap. It
Mm-hmm.
was a decent directorial debut from Jordan Peele. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Very simplistic actually, but very good. And it wasn't that many jump scares, which I liked about it. But yes, Us was a very it was a very big breath of fresh air. I
Yeah.
would say so myself. It was very, even when the trailer came out, my friend was like, "What in the world is this movie?" It was like, it was late January or February that trailer dropped. It was
Yeah.
maybe 3 weeks before the movie came out. It was so crazy. And then when you actually see this movie of like the girl in the maze, and then like she gets scared, and then she has like these visions.
I honestly don't even know what to say about the movie. It was good.
It
was
was
just
good.
something to watch.
It was crazy, is what it was. It was insane. I mean, with the
Incredible visuals, which again is a
yes.
huge thing for horror movies.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a horror movie, don't
has
have
to
it
feel
look
like a horror movie,
boring.
Yeah.
Given I've heard that The Witch is good. The Witch.
The Witch, yes. The
I've
Witch.
heard that's good, but it's got boring visuals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a different
like, yeah.
start. It's just a more polarizing view. But yeah. So then the family goes on vacation to the beach. The
Yeah,
same
yeah.
beach in the beginning of the movie the girl got scared of, and
It's pretty much just Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
yeah,
The
it pretty
same
much
exact
is.
story, just spooky and scary and modern.
I just liked it because like the doppelganger aspect was kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Something that really I didn't like about the movie personally was Tim Heidecker. Tim, right? Not
dad?
Eric. Yeah. No, Tim Heidecker from Tim and Eric.
I don't know.
Because I've seen all the funny comedy
Oh,
stuff
the
that he's
dad?
done. Yeah, yeah.
The white dad.
Yeah, he took me out of the movie.
It's
He
okay.
took me out of Ant-Man too, because he was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. He was the guy on the
Oh
boat,
my
and I'm
God.
like, oh, this is supposed to be like a spooky horror story, but this is
Mhm.
the guy who does like comedy sketches about like Tostino's pizza rolls or whatever.
I guess
like,
he was.
seriously.
I guess the dads were supposed to be the comic relief for the movie.
Yeah, but
But
that to me took me out just a little bit.
the one I thought it was funny.
Oh,
'cause-
I do like the scene. I hate to cut you off. I love the scene though because they know this one girl knows that like her shadow's following her around.
Oh yeah.
The scene when the family's out there and they see their doppelgangers for
that
the
was
first time.
creepy. I mean, it got shown. That's another thing about Hollywood that I kind of don't like is that they show everything in the trailer. So
Oh yeah,
to
I
me,
didn't
that
see the
scene
trailers. I just knew
really,
it would be a spooky
oh,
horror
to
movie.
me, that scene would have been way more effective if they didn't show it in the trailer. Because like if I saw it in the movie for the first time and I was like, holy crap, something is gonna go down, and then they go and they invade the house, and it was just like super creepy. And then they escape the doppelgangers, and then they go to their friend's house and they kill all their doppelgangers, and then they go back to the shore. And for some reason, there's this chain forming around the world with all the doppelgangers, and they're killing all the regular people. And you find out later in the movie, like you go back, like the mom goes back down to the other side, or like down above the ground, and
she
no
finds
one's
out.
there.
I saw the twist at the very end coming from a mile away.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It's so obvious that the mom was actually, the twisted one.
Spoilers.
Well, yeah, obviously. Because it is a spooky horror movie, and there's spooky twist at the end.
realized after she killed the red, the quote unquote red.
That's the doppelgangers.
She made that really weird laugh, so I'm like,
hello there.
Well, she didn't. She just laughed like that. That weird like thing, and I'm like, that's not right. Why she sound like that? And they reveal.
Yeah.
Well, the one guy, Chris Stuckman. I mean, yeah, he's pretty good. He thought it could have been even more ambiguous than that. It should have been left up more to if the mom was really red, like if the mom was really a doppelganger or not. But the problem is, like, I feel like with mainstream audiences, nothing can be ambiguous, so it had to be explained that she got replaced and she switched shirts with the girl and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So unfortunately it had to be explained, because I feel like if they left it ambiguous, no one would have understood it.
I would have liked it.
I would have liked that too.
Yeah, but
and then
again,
ending,
you can't do that because it's 2019.
Yeah, no one understands anything now.
Because people are lazy and love shoving popcorn in their
know.
throats. They need a gimmick to get people to come out anymore. Because again, movie tickets are $16. Which is
movie
insane.
tickets are getting expensive. They're making the movie theaters are more like one concessions, and there's the whole Disney Star Wars issues. Every time Star Wars movies comes out, they're always worried about their cuts and everything like that. So,
and I've heard like there's the local theater, the Colonial, and Disney. They can't show anything from Disney because Disney wins like 60% of the profits.
It's crazy.
Or something. Yeah,
it's like, dude, they make so much money. You can't give them like, I don't know,
smart company.
I guess it's rights issues or something like that.
Anyway, as we're closing off, I'd like to get back to our very starting topic of the day, and this comes back to the Scary Stories movie. The whole reason why we're here to talk anyway. I'm going to make a short list of, let's just talk about our predictions for the movie, what we want for the movie, and what we definitely don't want. I will start off. I'm hoping the movie has a lot of spooky visuals, which I think they've covered so far.
Yes, it'll definitely have that.
I hope there's a lot of...
definitely have that.
Like a nice mix of practical and special effects.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, and I think it's going to do that really well. It looks like it's paying a good homage to the movie. That's something that I definitely do want. Something that I don't want
are the kids. The kids, okay, I don't think they're going to be, like, crazy amazing, but I don't think they're going to be terrible. I think there's going to be, like, okay, they're kids. I mean, they're teenagers.
Yeah. I hope it's not, like, again, in the face with, like, oh, cursing, I'm a little kid and I can curse. Yeah, like, that with me, with it, I really like that aspect.
That makes sense.
It made it feel
like
a lot more realistic. Yeah, and in the 80s, so it made sense. Again, what would you like to see with this movie?
Obviously, I have faith in Guillermo del Toro with the monsters.
I hope there's a lot more.
That's literally the only thing I'm worried about is the kids. Hopefully, the kids are good. I mean, they kind of look cringy in the trailers, like, oh yeah, the creatures come alive.
And child actors have gotten a lot better.
Yes.
From
it's
like
probably
the 1950s.
Information and all
the
that
80s
stuff.
was a big time for child actors. It's very few times you see bad child actors, except Jungle Book. The kid was a little. I mean, he was a little kid.
Well, you got to give the kid a break. He was literally on a blue mocap.
Oh yeah, I know.
With nobody on there, so it's kind of hard to act with nobody on the set.
Still though, I hope the kids are good. I hope there's a nice flow to the story.
Yeah.
What we don't want to see in the movie.
Whoa.
I would like to see faithful retellings of the story, but I don't think we're gonna get that. what unfortunately what I really don't want to see is again, oh no, meet Dodie Walker's gonna get you. Oh no, this is just like in the story. The head's gonna jump out the basket. Watch out. Where it's like Scooby-Doo 2, or it's like Goosebumps, and it's just spooky Goosebumps where people die. I hope it's not like a cheap retelling where everyone's supposed to know about all these stories.
Well, so far in the second trailer that I saw, that might be the case because
and isn't there like a spooky book?
No, there's a spooky book, but near the end of the trailer, remember the black dog story?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I don't know why, but I get somehow the two kids get put in prison or something like that, or a jail cell, and the black dog shows up in the jail, and then like, I think hopefully it's a different scene. Then there was the contortionist creeper from the first book. I forget what that story was, but then he shows up. So I don't know if it was the same scene or if all these scary stories they tell are going to come to life and like attack them. I have no idea.
Yeah.
That would be
probably the worst case scenario.
I have a feeling that might happen though,
because again, these scary stories are not like Goosebumps where it's a spooky Yeti, and the spooky Yeti's gonna tear your head off, or the aliens are gonna come and shoot you and turn you into alien dust, or the zombies are gonna come and eat you. It's like comparing it to Goosebumps. At least there's stories that don't involve monsters going out to get you. Like for example, stories like let's say the one about the girl where she doesn't go to her hotel room, and they're making up stuff so she can't get her hotel room because they messed up because of some plague or they're cleaning or something. Like stories that don't involve monsters, stories that just involve spooky things happening with maybe like not an entity or a ghost, but just things that happen that can't be explained, like dying, like talking about the whole concept that you'll die. Or in Goosebumps, I hate to bring this back to Goosebumps, but again.
Gosh.
The Goosebumps is a story about the literal camera that kills you.
Yeah.
You take photos of people. Like, that's a spooky item.
The problem with Goosebumps is that they shove so many monsters in one movie. That's what I'm worried about with this one. Is they're going to shove so much stuff.
Like, scary stories isn't all monsters.
Yeah.
It's just spooky shit. Spooky, scary
well,
stuff
I
that
feel like the
happens.
difference between the Twilight Zone movie in the 80s compared to now is that I don't know how that'd work now with an anthology of just different stories.
I think it would still work.
Yeah.
Again, go check out Trick or Treat, and let's say you can't afford to rent or maybe even pirate or stream Trick or Treat. Let's say you're too dumb for that. Then go on Netflix and watch the terrible knockoff of that movie that we'll talk about eventually, Tales from Halloween, which is the terrible Netflix knockoff. But it gets the anthology thing out of the way.
Well, the thing is with the scary stories thing is the fact that
I'm sorry. I was just really hoping for this to be an anthology movie.
Well,
I
don't know because I remember in 2007. I mean, this is kind of not really related to horror, but I remember watching a movie called Batman Gotham Knight.
Yeah.
And what it did, it was kind of interesting in that one is there was like 4 or 5 like different Batman stories, but they all had number one, a unique story to each one. Number 2, a different art style to distinguish it, and number 3, like a different Batman character.
Yeah.
So like one of them was like kids' interpretations of what Batman would look like, and then like at the end of it, Batman showed up to like beat up this guy.
And they were all different.
Yeah, they're all different. Like one of them I remember which is my favorite, was like it was like this gothic art style. It was like the scarecrow was like in the sewers, and like Batman was hunting him, and like Killer Croc got like injected with the fear toxin, and like he was fighting Batman. And then Batman was fighting Scarecrow in the sewers.
I like the idea of different things being retold in different people's ideas. Or maybe it could be all by the same director, but just different stories, different retellings of it. Instead of just, oh no, meet Dodie Walker is going to get, like, that's not a story about a scary thing.
I think
it's a story about a literal head falling down a chimney. What's the head going to do? Like, jump up like the other head and bite people? No, that's different. It's a spooky story. It's not about a monster coming out and killing people. There's only like a handful of those.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they did an anthology because the story, like when you read them, they're probably like 5 minutes long. So how are they going to film a scene that's like 5 minutes long? They can extend
some of them out.
I guess. I don't know.
It's a more.
I guess the whole monster idea, them all coming all back to life, makes a little more sense than just having like a 10-minute thing about a woman trying to find her toe. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I
Yeah.
guess that's what they
I'm
thought. It's like, why would we film a 10-minute scene of a
God,
woman
how
trying
are
to
they
find her
gonna
toe?
incorporate that specific story? Like, are kids in like the '60s gonna
That's
eat a
that's
toe?
what I don't get. That's what
Like,
he's
how
gonna
is that
find
gonna
the
work?
toe and be like,
'Cause
oh,
in
I'm
the
gonna keep
trailer,
it.
You see, where's my big toe? Like, how is
And
that
then he
scary?
gets
I don't have
dragged
your
under
toe.
the bed. I don't.
We don't
know.
have your toe. Why do you want it so bad?
I don't
We
know.
don't have it. Then she comes in and we're just like, oh, I'm sorry. We don't have your toe. We didn't eat it in soup because we're not crazy mother effers. And then the
Well-
monster's going to turn around. She's going to be like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to, turn right around. Thank you so much for, telling me about the toe.
Yeah, she's
just
not
tell
gonna
me.
do that.
Here's my number. Just tell me if you see my toe anywhere around. Like, how is that supposed to be scary? Nobody today is going to eat a toe.
Well, I see. I don't. I think he's just gonna. I don't think he's gonna eat it, Nick. I think he's. think he's just
the
gonna
story
keep it.
specifically doesn't work. 'cause
I
it's
know.
not-
I
that's-
think he's just gonna keep it or something. He's gonna do something with it. I don't know, whatever with it, and then she's gonna come after him or something.
like a lot of these stories, they even though they're folklore, like a lot of folklore, you know how people they have they receive something because they did something. Like in the story of Harold, for example, they mistreat Harold as a scarecrow,
Yeah.
and they mess with him, and they're bad people or something. So Harold comes and kills them. Why would it make sense for Harold to just, he pops out of a book and Jack Black's there, and Jack Black's like, oh no, Harold is coming to kill us. Like, no, these monsters, they have a motive. They're not just killing to kill.
Well, Jack
Harold,
Black, I don't think.
Well,
in the
no, I'm
movie.
kidding.
No,
That's
no, I agree.
Goosebumps. But
Yeah.
the whole idea, Harold was killing these people because they did something to him.
Well,
He's
that's
not just
well, if you.
ruthlessly killing people. There's stories to these monsters. They're not
Well,
just monsters
they're kinda
doing
like-
monster stuff for doing monsters.
But hold on. Well, if you see the trailer, I don't know why, but I guess the bully. There's one bully, and I don't know if it's his dad's farm or something. But
Okay.
he gets a bat and he hits Harold with it, and I guess he's like, "Take that, Harold," or something like that. So I don't know if it's his farm or something like that. He gets lost in a cornfield, and then I guess they're reading the stories, and while the bully's in the cornfield, like Harold, comes to life and I guess kills the bully. And
Yeah,
probably-
I guess something like that's gonna happen. I have high hopes for it. I hope it's good.
I
I
think it'll
hope
be
to
good.
see-
I
we
don't
don't
think
like-
it'll. I don't think it'll blow us out of the water. Definitely not. But I think it's not gonna be crap.
And I'll say this, and we could both agree on this. We don't like bad movies. We
No.
don't like bad movies unless they're so
No.
bad they're good, like The Room, which I love. And
Oh
if
my
this movie
God.
is bad, I hope it's so bad it's like The Room in that sense. But we don't want to see a bad movie. We want a movie that's good. That's all
that's
I
what
gotta
I think it'll
say.
be. It'll be a decent
I have
movie.
high hopes. I hope it's a good movie. That's all
It'll
I'm
be
gonna
a good
say.
movie. It won't be a masterpiece, but it'll be a good movie. I think.
Anyway, this concludes the Expedition Suburbia podcast for today, where we talked about scary stories, horror movies, movies from 2017 to 2019, good movies, bad movies, great movies, phenomenal movies, good books, scary stories, nice drawings, and Han Solo, of course, my favorite movie, Solo.
and Rogue One, the greatest,
Rogue
the
One.
greatest spin-off movies of all time.
So, for our final words for the end of this podcast, show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell, please.
And sometimes tell, don't show.
No, don't tell because
Well, sometimes tell, don't show as well. But anyway, though, thank you for listening. Have a great day, and thank you for listening to our wonderful podcast, Expedition Suburbia out from Nick and Expedition Suburbia out from...
from Ryan.
Thank you.